All right, guys, what's up? Here with Jordan Philpott.
What's up?
How long have you been coming to the gym?
I just finished a year.
Okay.
This last week on the 12th the week before was my first year.
Was it? So I guess I've known you for about a year then.
Yeah.
And I got to first start by saying congratulations.
Thank you.
This year at the gym, at our CrossFit 217 gym there in Charleston, he won the biggest transformation over the last year. And I think we ought to just jump into that. Like, what happened? What made you want to get so fit?
Well, I was fat.
Or actually, tell us a little about yourself first. Where do you reside from?
I'm actually from just outside of Mattoon here. I live in between, right smack dab in the middle between Mattoon and Charleston. That's where I grew up most of my life. Went to Charleston schools. My dad was a Charleston firefighter, so that's really the community that I consider myself more a part of is Charleston, even though we're kind of in the middle. So
nice. So you're a firefighter now. Did you want to be a firefighter your whole life, knowing your dad was?
Yeah, yes and no. When I was younger, everybody wants to be a firefighter, obviously, when they're kids. But,
Yep.
So that was always something that attracted me. But I went through a period where I was really interested in. I got into like writing. I get
Really?
like creative writing and stuff, and so I toyed with the idea of going to a bigger school for journalism.
No kidding.
And then my grades came in senior year, and I was super lazy in school. Like, all my teachers would always be on me, like, you're smart. You need to, if you do the work, you would do better. I don't feel like it's not something I'm really, but like my English grades are always really high because that was something I was interested in.
Really? That's cool. Didn't know that about you.
Yeah, smoked the ACT and.
What'd you get on the ACT?
27.
You want to hear a funny story? Growing up, I took the ACT and I got a 17. And so, to get into a Division I school, you have like an 18. And so my parents were upset because I, like you, I didn't take school seriously. I didn't care. That test, I just filled in the answers so I could get out of there. And so I took it again, and I come home, and my dad's like, hey, man, how'd you do this time? And he's like, before you tell me, I want you to know that I just read the newspaper. And in the paper, it had a stat in there. It said that a monkey scores a 16 on ACT. What'd you get the second time around? And I said, I got a 16. And so, dude, I've never been good at test taking, so I'm about as smart as a monkey is. So, and with that said, anybody that thinks they can't do anything, like, I'm living proof you can do whatever you want, man.
Exactly.
I'll never be the brightest guy in the room, but,
I don't consider myself bright necessarily. Like, I actually went to school with a kid that scored 2 perfects on it. They took it because they do it like a day where you take it in class, or they set juniors aside, and that's all you do all day is your SAT, your ACT, and I think it was your Prairie State test at that time. And he scored a perfect, and first of all, I knew the kid was extremely intelligent. He was one of my buddies, and you knew he was going to do really well, but he got a perfect. He's like, I don't think I could do that again. And so I don't remember how it transpired, but he took it again and got another perfect. And so
that's crazy.
I'm not
What's a perfect score on that? It's like 36 or something?
36, I think.
Gee whiz.
The funny thing is, they had told us the week before, juniors on Monday, you're going to have the day. All you're doing is taking tests all day, so you need to be prepared for that. This is what you need to bring. And again, this kid, not paying attention, forgot. Get to school the next day, and they're like, all right, you need to go to, because I went to my homeroom, they're like, you need to go to whatever room I was in at the time. And I get there, and they're like, all right, you need to put all your stuff away. We're getting ready to take we're going to do the ACT first. And I'm like, oh, crap. And they're like, the only things you have on your desk are your pencils and your calculators. And I'm like, I did not bring a calculator. This is not going to be good. So, like, my English, science, and reading scores were like, that's what got me a 27.
Really? That's funny.
I'm a big-time reader, but my math score's like 20 or 8 or 19 or 18 or whatever. It's like brought it down a whole bunch of points.
That's funny. Well, now that you guys know that, don't tell anybody about that 16, because I don't people think I'm dumb.
Well, you're as smart as a monkey. So.
That's true. That's true. All right, so you get out, we get through that, you kill that, you decide against journalism.
Yep.
And you're going to be a firefighter. Did you go to school locally, college?
I did. Actually, right outside this door here, that awning to the right, that's where I went to EMS class, or EMT classes. So to back up a little bit, when I was going through the journalism phase, my freshman year of high school, my dad was in an accident. They were building the training facility we have now. and he was unloading some steel railroad ties they were using for a railroad prop. And he'd been around construction his whole life, and to this day he'll tell you he knew that he did something wrong. It was not an accident happened because two people did two wrong things that they knew better than what to do. But he went underneath to adjust them because they were swinging, and he went to adjust the strap, and the guy didn't know he was underneath, and set the ties down on the back of his neck and pinned him to a gooseneck trailer.
Ooh.
And so it broke C2, 3, and 4, and compressed C5 and caused spinal injury. Not a complete severance of the cord like Christopher Reeves had, but it was enough damage that it paralyzed him.
Oh, no kidding. How old was he?
He would have been 36, 37, just a little bit older than me.
Oh, man.
When it happened. And so he was in the hospital for, I think, 2 years. If I remember
2 years
correctly.
in the hospital?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was at Carl.
And
for
how old
a
were you
few
at the
months. Freshman in high school, so 15, I think, 14 or 15.
Dude, that's tough.
Yeah, it was a long period. We were out of school for a month, for the first month, I think, because they didn't know for sure if he was going to live.
No kidding.
And then once he was able to get stabilized and started moving to rehab hospitals, that's when we went back to school. But it was difficult, but it was a good. I hate to say it this way. It was a good thing for me because it really solidified for me at that point that this is something that I could potentially see as a career because of all the support and like the brotherhood that we saw from the fire department and guys that didn't even know him stopping by the hospital to talk to us and offer their support. And
oh, that's
and
cool.
I just thought that was awesome, and that always stuck with me. And then the closer I got to, my senior year of school, I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to do journalism. Maybe this is what I want to do, is to help people in this fashion. So
that's cool. So you went to EMS school?
Yep, through Lakeland.
Nice.
At the time, it was still associated with the hospital, but I don't think it is anymore.
Really? So how long were you in the? I see people that go through the EMS school. Do you run an ambulance service? Like what is the EMS? Like what do you do when you're in EMS? Does that make you automatically a firefighter?
No. So EMS is just like the paramedic side of it. So you start out as an EMT basic, and then you go. There's a lot more steps. To oversimplify, you go from EMT basic, which is a 3-month program or a semester, and then you go into like your general study stuff. Now you have to get a degree if you go through Lakeland. But at the time I did it, I graduated high school on June 1st. The 2nd was a Saturday. The 3rd was a Sunday. And June 4th, I started EMT school.
Really?
That's how committed I was to doing it.
Oh, that's cool.
And so went right into it. And so I went into EMT basic. To be able to get into the paramedic class, I had to take a biology class. So I was taking basic and bio 101 at the same time. And then the following falls when I started paramedic class. So it took me, it was a little shortened because I didn't have to spread it out as much like other people do. So it only took me like 2 years total, I think. Now it's like 2.5, almost 3 to get all the way through it. So
do you think in that 2-year time frame when your dad was in the hospital, do you think that affected you at all?
100%. I have no doubt in my mind.
Good, bad, both?
I don't want to say both because I don't think there's really. It sucks that my dad still has deficit, and that still bothers me to this day. I guess that's really the bad that came out of it is.
So he's still paralyzed now?
I still deal with it. He's not paralyzed. He can walk, but it's very difficult for him. He has really significant deficit. Like he can't grip. He can't do the things he used to do. Like my dad, and Carson knows him. He was a big, like you think I'm big and strong. My dad was about 10 times stronger bigger
really?
than I was.
No kidding.
He lifted heavy all the time, like bodybuilding type lifting, and
really,
he can't. To see where he is now, I'm glad I still have my dad around.
Yeah,
but it's difficult for me to see him not the same way he used to be. Like, it might be different if I was young enough that I didn't remember him being my dad. He's still my dad, but you know what I mean.
Oh, it's crazy. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild.
But the good that came out of it for sure was it really caused me to like reevaluate what I was doing and what do I really want to do with my life when I get out of high school, and to, what do I really want to be a part of do I really want to go? Because my school at that time, I really wanted to go to the University of Miami because I was a Miami Hurricanes football fan, and I thought that would be cool to go all the way down there, live the Florida life, and go to school. But at that, and I was capable of doing it, but I just kind of tuned away from that. I guess that's when it kind of started that I drifted away from doing the writing thing, and I see that as a good thing because I work in the community that I grew up in, so sometimes I get to take care of people I knew, and again, that's like a bad thing, sort of, because we're seeing people on their worst day, but at the same time, I know people that I have known my whole life that I've actually helped.
Yeah.
So I see that as a good thing, even though it comes from a bad thing.
Definitely, that is cool. So I think it's interesting too that it's almost like you were forced to grow up a little bit faster.
Yes.
With all that happened, because I know whenever I was that age, dude, that's the last thing I had in my mind is wondering what I was going to do when I get older.
Yep.
I went through the motions of, well, whenever you are in high school, you need to get good grades, go to college, get good grades in college, graduate, and then get a good job. And I went to college for 2.5, 3 years, not knowing what I wanted to do, and I just dropped out. Shoot, I'm 38 and still don't know what I want to do. That's like
right.
That's a cool part about life is that we don't have to. I mean, it's awesome that you have that. This is what I'm going to do, and you're following your heart. Yep. I'm over here like still just winging it.
That's how I commit to stuff, though. Like if I start getting interested in something, and it's always been that way, I get like super hardcore into researching it and looking up stuff about it. And okay, I need to learn to do this and this and this. Sometimes I get a little bit ahead of myself, but like that's just my personality, I guess. Is I go full bore. It's like we were just talking a little bit before. I go full bore at stuff until I've mastered it, or I don't feel like I can do anything more with it. Which is kind of a nice thing about my job. I don't know that I'll ever feel like I've ever mastered it.
Yeah, there's always something to learn.
Yeah.
That's cool. So now you're a firefighter.
Yep.
How long have you been a firefighter?
I'll start my 11th year in May.
Nice.
So just got promoted. I just finished my first year as a lieutenant. So
What's a lieutenant mean? So
in the fire service, there's different ranks. So like firefighters, like the line guys, that's the guy that gets to do all the work and tear up like I say tear up houses, but does like advancing the hose and putting the fires out and all that. The lieutenant's the first step of rank where he's the guy in charge of a group of line guys. Okay. And then there's a captain who's in charge of a shift, and then the chiefs are in charge of the whole department. So I'm like number 2.
Nice. How long does it take to get to the next?
Well, in theory, it could be as soon as next year, but that's not. I have a plan and a process that I'm going through, and it's worked so far for me, so I can't.
Yeah, that's
I don't
awesome.
want to deviate from it. So
now you're in a leadership role, being a lieutenant.
Yep.
How's that working for you? You like it?
Yeah, I love it. I wouldn't trade my job for the world. There's sometimes when it's difficult, just because, just like any mid-level leadership, you have the chiefs will come out with stuff, and you're like, I don't know that I really agree with that. But, one thing I've taken away from all the leadership reading and training and all the stuff that I've done is sometimes you just there's a reason for everything. The chief has a reason why he has come out with this thing.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with it, you may not understand the reason. It's my job, to disseminate that. And the way I look at it, and I'm not the person who came up with this, but is you support it in public and you disagree with it in private. Have a conversation with the guy. And I think sometimes that's hard because as soon as you take it to guys, all the complaining starts, and it's like,
oh yeah,
you don't want to get sucked into that because that's not your role. And we're a small enough department that we're all friends and we all chit chat and get along. So, but it's difficult sometimes to separate. For me, especially as a young guy, just getting promoted, separating myself from. I don't need to be a part of this. I need to support this, but at the same time, I need to be able to take their concerns to the chief and get it handled that way. So.
Yeah, I guess I see that. That makes a lot of sense because you still want to be friends with these guys, but you're also in a leadership role. But you're spending a lot of time with them.
Yep, that's one thing I've never really kind of agreed with is there's a lot of stuff out there, and it's not all of it, but there's a lot of stuff that people that have put out that says, oh, once you're in leadership, you got to cut, not really cut ties, but you can't be. No, how am I going to get these guys to trust me if we're not buddies? So I kind of subscribe to a little bit different school, I guess, but.
And it makes you wonder too. So I started Structure U almost a couple of years ago probably, And we do some things now. There are some paid events, but I had a buddy of mine recently tell another buddy that, oh, I guess to be Mike's friend now, you got to pay him. You got to pay to talk to him. You got to pay for this stuff. And I'm like,
You mean I don't have to?
I'm like, that's a farthest thing from the truth, and it really bothered me because I'm one of those dudes that has thin skin. I'm like,
right.
What are you talking about, man? Like the people that are paying for different things, maybe they're just ready to go to the next level. And I don't ask anybody to pay for something. If we're gonna host this stuff and you want to do it, let's do it, But if you don't, like, I'm still your friend. But like you said, you think once you get to a certain level, you got to cut those ties, which is not it at all. No. I agree.
No,
because you and I put our pants on the same exact way.
Exactly. One leg at a time.
Yes, and I think that people think, especially maybe it is for people that do. They like that power trip, maybe.
I think that's the problem is people. It depends on your position, and that was something that I struggled with when I got into. Do I want to promote or do I just want to stay a line guy? Because there's some guys like Kirby that goes to the gym. He's been a line guy his whole career. He's never had any interest in leadership, but he's also one of the guys that I would trust to be able to lead a group of people if I was the only officer there and I needed somebody to take care of something. He's, you don't have to be in that position. And I guess I'm trying to think how to word it. Like, you don't necessarily have to cut those ties because then I feel like when you do that, that's when you start getting guys that people talk about in the light of, well, he forgot where he came from.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to be that guy.
You don't want to burn those bridges.
No.
And, you think of somebody like, we use Kirby as an example.
Yeah.
Like, if he just got no interest in promoting going next level, good for him.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't care how you slice it. And this isn't negative, but there's still going to be burger flippers, no matter what. That are good burger flippers. They could advance, but like, no, I'm cool with this.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter. There's people, and I think too, I fall in the category of sometimes, and I probably come across as judgmental sometimes because I will see somebody who should be leveling up, going to the next level, but they're content down here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but dude, go up here, do this stuff. And they're like, I just don't want to. And I'm like, it's hard for me to grasp that. I'm like, because I want better for you. Exactly. I want you to want better for yourself.
That's something I know that they deal with during evaluations, and guys talk about that. I've never had that because I've always been a go-getter. This has always been my dream. I have a plan. They know the plan, so they've never bothered me about it.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. You had the plan.
Yep.
So last year you get into CrossFit. Why'd you get into CrossFit?
Because I got tired of Kirby bugging me about it. I've always worked out.
Did you play sports in high school?
I did. So I played football for 4 years, lettered for 3, and played basketball for 3 years, and lettered for 2. And I ran track a little bit in the beginning, but it just never. I'm not a huge I'm gonna go run because I can run type of person. I do now. It's funny I say that but I've never really been like, oh, running thrills me.
Yeah.
I enjoy it so much. I want to do it and compete at it.
Yeah. See, and that's where we're different because I like that.
Yeah.
But for me, running's almost like my meditation type deal because I don't. I've never been strong, so it's like, and I don't know that I want to put in all that work to get like super strong. But I'm like, well, let's do the opposite. I'll run and never get strong.
Yeah, there's guys like that I know that have lifted way longer than me that are way stronger, and I'm like, I just do not have the desire. Like, I'm strong and I keep trying to build on it and get better for sure, but you also reach a point where there's no point in being a certain strength.
I don't care if I can lift up a car.
Yeah.
I've never had to.
It might be helpful for me at some point, but I just
true.
don't have the desire.
That's true. So you started coming to CrossFit. Whenever you came, how much did you weigh then?
When I started CrossFit, I was actually down. I was 285, I think.
What's your biggest?
295.
Okay.
And I was 295 coming out of quarantine a couple months before, and stepped on the scale, and I'm like, I got to get this under control.
295, that's a big boy.
Yeah. I'm very thankful I've never been over 300 because I don't know that I could have. I mean, I could have dealt with it. It would have probably driven me harder, but at the same time, it was like, man, what am I doing? It's not fair to my kids. It's not fair to. It's definitely not fair to the people at work that if something were to happen to me, I had to drag me out or whatever. So I've always worked out, and like I said, I've always weightlifted, but never really got into. I try to run. I'm like, I just don't have the drive for it.
Yeah.
And So for, I don't know, probably 5 or 6 years, Kirby had been bothering me like, dude, you're strong. You need to come to CrossFit and get the other stuff done because you'd be really good at it. And so finally I'm like, you know what?
Dude, he planted a lot of seeds in those 5, 6
Oh, yeah,
years, didn't he?
Well, you know, the number one rule about CrossFit is you have to talk about CrossFits.
Yeah, there's no other rule about CrossFit.
That's true.
Dude, it's like a cult. And you know,
but in a good way.
I've never been part of a real cult except for this, but it's like, yeah, I mean, like, it's cool because we talk about getting healthier, doing hard things, like everything that CrossFit's about, like what I'm about as a man. I'm like, this is awesome.
Exactly.
Because my wife started going before I did, and I guess it must have been 2 years ago. She was competing in the Open, and I went to it, and I was like, dude, I want to do this. I can beat these dudes.
Like I said, I always lifted, but never really got into the cardio stuff. And when I started doing the cardio stuff there, it was built into the lifting.
Yeah.
And I was like, now this I can do. I can handle this.
Yeah.
Because I would always try to like lift for an hour, and then I try to be like, oh, I'm going to lift for an hour, and then I'm going to run for 30 minutes or do some sort of cardio for 30 minutes. And then you get done lifting, you're like, I don't think I'm going to do that today, and talk yourself out of it. But here you don't have a choice.
When you first started coming, did you like it?
Oh, the first day I came, Kirby's like, now here's the deal. The first day's free, but after that, if you want to come, you're going to have to sign up. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I came, did the workout, and as soon as we got done working out and I could stand back up, I went right over to Cody. I'm like, I need to sign up right now. I absolutely fell in love with it.
That's awesome. And isn't it cool, too? I'm going to brag on Cody here for a little bit. Cody owns CrossFit 217 in Charleston. And that dude just got a heart of gold, doesn't he?
100%.
He's such a quiet guy, but man, he will do anything for anybody, and he wants everybody to succeed.
I told him on multiple occasions, like, I apologize if you have like paper text, because I text him all the time.
Paper text. Well, you know, I told him just the other day at the little banquet they had. I said, this was before he gave me the award, but I said, you know, when I first started coming here, I really liked you. And I told my wife, I really like that Cody guy. And she makes fun of me now for being his number one fanboy. But I said, I told my wife, I said, I really want Cody to like me. And I'm pretty certain right now he does not like me because he would never talk to me. I try to interact with him. He would just ignore me. And I'm like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, how come he doesn't like me? So now it's been a couple of years. And I'm like, I told him, I'm like, I'm still not sure if you like me, but I still really like you, Cody. And then he just laughs, you know. But he's a quiet dude, but would help anybody to do anything.
Yeah. 100%.
He's awesome. So, you were at 285.
Yep.
So I've seen this transformation over the last year. What are you now?
Well, I weighed this morning because I wanted to know what I was starting the Open at, and I was at 250. But I've fluctuated from 245 to 250 over the last couple months.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did it take long to see? Actually, let me back up. Were you wanting to lose weight when you started?
Yes.
You were?
That was the sole reason I came. Honestly, well, I say because Kirby bothered me, but. Like I said, I lifted. I know I've said that about 80 times now, but I was never I'd lose a little bit, but not enough.
Yeah.
And I got to a point where I'm like, I need to do something different, and so that's why I finally was like, all right, I'll go.
And what made you want to lose weight? Like, why did you want that change? And the only reason I ask that is I find that so many people are stuck, and they don't know what to do. They don't know what to. They just don't know what to do. They don't know how to take action.
Why I wanted it and why I did it they're kind of the same, but they're different. In the aspect of the reason I wanted to do it, number one was for my kids, because I want to be around for my kids. Number two was, I think I told you this story, I went to a class in Champaign for fire officer, or it's called Fireground Company Officer, which was like the job I do now, learning how to run and operate in a fire scene as the lieutenant. And the very first day, we all stand up on the line. He goes, all right, we're going to have the guy that was teaching, his name's Lou Lake, and I've had him for several classes. He's one of my favorite instructors up there. Anytime his name's on the book, I'm going to try to sign up for it. We all get in a line, and we're standing out there, and they're treating it like just a regular day at the firehouse. And they're like, all right, we're going to have a conversation today that some of you don't want to have. And but it's something that we really need to talk about. And I'm part of the problem too, but we have a lot of out-of-shape people in the fire service, and that's not good, and this is how we need to address it. And he went on a little spiel, and at the end he goes, at the end of the day, this is basically how you need to picture it, is at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's a fire at your house. Are you the type of firefighter that you want showing up? And that really struck me like, I know I'm not, I'm definitely not. Like, I can do the job, but I'm not
Yeah.
as efficient as I could be. I know I need to be in better shape, and that was in March, right after I'd started, and that really struck with me, and that was really the drive, I guess, that kind of got behind it. But number one was my family, because I want to be around for them. Number two was because it was in that class that I realized, hey, I'm not doing the citizens of my community a favor by being overweight.
It's a gut punch there.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so, like, the reason I was able to commit to it, though, was because I was ready to do it.
Ooh, that's good.
I can tell, I can sit here and tell you, oh, well, I did it because of my family, and I did it because I went to this class, and this guy said this, and I did it for a million reasons, but ultimately you have to make the decision for yourself that that's where you want to be. Am I ready to commit to what it's going to take to get to that point?
Do you think there's a time, obviously you do, but like I was just talking to a guy earlier that said, we as men, probably women too, but we know when it's time to turn that page. We know when it's time for that next chapter, but so many people are they don't know how to take action on it. They know they're ready for a change, but maybe they don't know where to reach out to. They don't know who to ask for help. They don't know where to go.
I would say 50%.
Yeah.
If I had to say that, yeah, I would say that's probably 50%. The other 50% is people see what they need, they know what they need, but they're too lazy to do it.
Yes. Yeah. But what makes them lazy?
Complacency. That's been this. We have a saying in the fire service, there's two things firemen hate: the way things are and change.
Yeah.
And that's,
dude, my wife and I just had that conversation. I said, here's the deal. With whatever's going on in the world, 'cause I keep hearing people reference, man, back in the good old days, or man, times sure have changed. But I want to tell these people, things aren't going back to the way they were. I mean, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, last year, change is inevitable. And I'm grabbing on the reins, and I'm ready to rock and roll because it's going to happen whether I like it or not.
I've always looked at that as like, well, yeah, things were great back then, but think about all the advantages we have now.
Oh, my gosh.
All the technology, all the research that's been done. Take losing weight or even, getting healthy, for example. How much more do we know about the human diet now? How much more do we know about what your body's capable of, what kind of exercises you need to be doing to have functional fitness at a certain level? Things that they didn't know back then. They were just like, well, if I eat a whole bunch of steak and I lift all these weights.
But how crazy is it, though, that we know all this stuff, but we're the fattest country in the world?
Exactly.
That's what's scary.
Complacency. Well, I know I need to do it, but I'm not going to.
Exactly.
I don't want to make the effort.
And I fall in that category sometimes, too. I'm like, I know I need to do this. Like, I know, like, my health, my diet is not the best, and I understand that. But at this point in my life, I'm just not ready to give that up yet.
Right.
I probably... And it's one of those dumb things where I work out hard so I can eat a little bit.
You know what? That's I have a buddy that owns a gym there in Charleston, and that's what he says. He says, well, number one reason he works out is because nobody will subscribe to a gym that's owned by a fat gym owner. And number two is he likes ice cream, so he has to work out enough calories that he can eat ice cream without putting on weight.
And I know that's going to get a time in my life where it's like, time to turn the page.
Yep.
It's time to get healthy. But right now is not that time, so it stinks. Does it? Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. It's excuses as to why I'm not.
Yep.
I think knock on wood, I've been skinny fat most of my life. I've never been overweight, so I don't know. I feel guilty talking about this right now.
What's funny is I was never over 200 pounds until I graduated high school. I might have been 200 as a senior, but I'm pretty sure I never really weighed on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But I knew enough from being in sports. How tall are you? 6'2".
Okay. Well, you're tall too.
So I was always, and there's pictures of me, like if I tell people that, they don't believe me. I'm like, oh, I got pictures, I'll show you. I was like ridiculously skinny.
So what happened that made you start gaining weight and go from 200 to 285?
EMS.
Really?
Just poor diet. I mean, I say EMS, poor diet really, but.
Yeah.
In EMS, you're always on the go, especially in class. You're trying to learn so much. Excuse me. You're trying to learn so much, and you have so many hours that you have to get in, and you're trying to cram it in a short period of time. And it's like, okay, well, I don't have time to make the excuse. I don't have time to cook for myself, so I'm gonna grab food from here and here.
Yeah.
And it just escalates to the point where, okay, you start working, and now you feel like you're always on the go. Well, I don't want to take the time to cook at the station because something might happen in the middle of me cooking, and so you start making those excuses, and it just escalates.
And it's sad, and I'm not sad in a bad way, but it's sad because what a thankless job that is that you guys have, and people all over the world depend on you guys, But in that sense too, you don't have the time to take care of yourselves either because you're on the go all the time.
Yeah, which is patently false in some aspect. I mean, yeah, we run a lot of calls and we're out and about a lot, but there's stuff you can do on your off duty, and then we, not every shift I've been on, but almost every shift I've been on, we always try to sit down and eat at least dinner together.
Do you?
Yep.
Well, that's nice.
So
you've talked a lot about your kids. Are you married?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
It'll be 11 years in September.
Nice.
So, and I'm lucky that I got hired in May of 2012. I got my first son, Chase, was born August 31st, and then we were married September 12th, all in the same year. So I can't ever forget any of those things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think where I wanted to go with this because we've talked a lot about marriage recently.
Yep.
And I didn't know if that was something you wanted to dig into.
We can. I'm not scared.
Yeah.
I'm a little scared, but I'm just kidding.
No, but like over the course of 10, 11 years, has your marriage went through patches?
Oh yeah.
And the only reason I want to talk on this is because mine has too, and we're the first 7 years of my marriage were.
That's what I was gonna say. The first 5 years for us were
rough. And now as we're
lucky
going
to
into
be standing here with a ring or sitting here with a ring on.
Dude, how true is that?
Why
do you think? And I think this is important to talk about because I think men need to hear the things that we're probably we've never talked about this before.
I think, from my personal experience, I can't speak to everybody, but I feel like this is true of a lot of guys. Guys are so used to being independent, and when you get married, it's not just about you anymore. And by nature, guys are selfish because at some point in history, we had to take care of everything. And so that's what we did. Well, now as we get, further along and you get married and all that, you've got more responsibility with somebody to help you take care of it. But our brains are still wired from back in the day where we had to take care of everything and the women stayed at home with or in the cave with the kids.
Mm-hmm. I had a conversation with a guy the other day that was saying too that, like you said, we as men, we're just naturally, like you said, independent, where I was going to say selfish.
Yeah.
You said selfish after that. But he was talking about, too, he was a little bit older guy. He's probably in his 60s. He's retired. But he was talking about how over the course of his life, he's noticed that he's become more and more passive. And his wife has taken on more of the responsibility for everything. And he said, I'm the man of the house. To get back to where I'm taking control. And he's like, not like I'm beating her and stuff like that, but like I'm going to take control, maybe paying the bills, budgeting the money. He's like, I'd given her so much control that I didn't even know how to do those things because I was just a passive little boy. And I'm like, man, that's where a lot of us as men are falling into at this point. We're not even taking care of our family. We're not taking care of our wives. We're not taking care of our kids because they're doing it and we're just letting them.
Yep. I would say that's probably the biggest problem the first 5 years that we had was I was starting a new job and I was so focused on everything I needed to do for that I was burning myself out by the time we got home, or by the time I got home, and that was causing a lot of the problems that we had the first 5 years.
Yeah, mine was 7 years, and it was literally just me being super selfish.
Oh, 100%.
With my time, and thinking back, I had 3 young kids, and she was doing all that. She was working. And I'm like, dude, why'd you stay with me? And that answer is a hard answer because she said didn't have anywhere to go, Mike.
That's exactly.
I wanted to leave, and I'm like, oh, dude, that's dead. What a kick in the balls, I'm like, I don't. To think about that, and now to know how fortunate I am that she stuck around, and I feel like God's worked in both of our lives in pretty miraculous ways, and I'm like, dude, we're very fortunate. Let's not blow this chance. And the best thing that ever happened to me is that she came to me one day, I don't know, it's probably been a year or two ago, and said, I trust you fully with everything now, and I feel like that no matter what happens in our lives, we can work it out. And I'm like, whoo, makes me feel good.
Yep.
That doesn't give me a free pass to go be an idiot, but we're on the right track.
Oh, 100%. I know I think that's why it's easy for me to talk to you about it, is because I feel like you share this stuff. I'm like, man, I went through that, or I'm going, or have gone through that, or am going through that, or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, that's the exact same thing happened to me. At the end of 5 years, or I say at the end of 5 years, during that 5 year period, it was, if I could get out of here, I would. And it's like,
that sucks to hear, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, it crushes you.
Yeah.
So that's literally the first time I think I've ever. I mean, my dad got hurt. It was pretty bad, but that was the first time I ever truly felt like I was soul crushed.
Yeah.
By something.
And too, I think it's nice that we're at a place where we can have those conversations, because most men and their wives, so my wife and I, we used to party. We used to do all the things that young couples did. And so we stopped doing that. And I'm like, what did we used to do? Like, what did we used to talk about? Like the things, it used to be our lives were just filled with drama because we were going out to the bars. We were doing all these dumb things. We were fighting all the time because that was a natural part of our life. And I'm like, man. So I have nothing against having a drink or having a glass of wine or anything like that. But it's been over a year now, maybe 13 months since I've had a drink. And I'm like, I don't even feel like I need a drink. You know, I had a good buddy of mine that used the term, you know, alcohol doesn't serve me any longer. And I was like, once I heard that, I was like, dude, that's good. Because I don't care to drink. It doesn't do anything for me, and it doesn't serve me.
That's awesome.
You know, I used to use the thing, too, with, you know, I've openly admitted that I was a pornography user. Like, that was a normal part of my day. My wife says, I don't want to do it. That's cool. I can go take care of it. Mm-hmm. But it's the thing, I use that, too, a lot. Like, porn doesn't serve me any longer. Like, it had, maybe when I was younger, it had a place in my life that I needed it. For safety, for security, to cope with these feelings. But as I've gotten older, it's like, no, that was a habit that I grew into, and I'm going to beat that habit down and replace it with the better habit, which has been CrossFit over the past two or 3 years. And it's like, dude, life is good.
Yep. That was something that I struggled with for a long time, too. It's exactly like you said. It's just a terrible habit that you guys fall into just because it's, again, laziness, I think.
It's laziness. It's everywhere that we look in the world. It's almost thing that you have to be very intentional now not to find it.
Yeah.
You know, you could search anything and it pops up.
The other thing, too, is this is something I've kind of been reading on a little bit, too, is most men, not all, again, but most men are, by nature, their love language is physical touch. Mm-hmm. And that I know for sure that's mine. Like, it bothers me sometimes that my wife won't hold my hand, but that's not her love language, and that's fine. But, you know, but then you start thinking about, okay, well, why do we get addicted to certain things? I get addicted to working out because that meets a physical need for me to feel like I'm strong or feel like I'm in good shape, or it gets me to those points and things like that. And I think it's the same way with pornography. It feels like that need for guys that aren't able to or aren't getting, for whatever reason, those, you know, getting that need met. And so they fall into this habit that's really just like a placebo for it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a habit. Mm-hmm. And, you know, in the world we live in now, you know, I used to listen to tons of podcasts, Barstool Sports. I was a huge Barstool Sports fan. Mm-hmm. But then after I listened to them, I'm like, dude, the things that they're talking about, I don't need in my life. It's pure garbage. Yep. And so that's one of the things I cut out. And it's like, you know, what are the things that trigger you? For me, it was like rejections. And I've always been in sales. So, what a terrible profession to be in. I'm being in sales and getting rejected by people because that would be my natural tendency was to go back to that habit. Yep. And so I had to kick that out. And, you know, too, I think that guys, I was just talking about this with the pastor at our church. Like, so I've got not every, but all the filters on my phone to where it's not even, like, there's no question. I can't look at it. Like, I've got every blocker on there. So, like, I can't look at it. And, you know, it used to be I would never want my wife to pick up my phone. Oh, what are you going to see on there? Like, dude, I'm not excited about this. Like, give me my phone.
Delete your history as fast as possible.
And it doesn't take long for her to be like, what are you hiding? You know? But now she can pick it up, look at it anytime she wants, and I have no fear. Yep. And that's to get to that point. And for her to say that she trusts me, I know that that's one of the reasons. Because she knows I'm not lying about anything. Yep. And it used to be normal for me to lie to my wife about stuff, you know? It was like,
I used to freak out about leaving my phone at home.
Yes.
I mean, quite bluntly, I used to freak out if I'd forget it and she was there, like, oh my gosh, she's going through it. And you run back to get it. But now if I forget it, it's like...
Dude, it's so powerful that you said that because so many men are going to be like, dude, heard that, man. Because, I was the same way. Dude, I better get home. I don't know what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to get home and grab that phone because what might she find on there?
Yeah, now it's like, oh, I forgot it. She's going to probably be ticked if I don't text her or whatever. But, like, I don't freak out about it. It's just like, I forgot my phone. Because I still go through periods where I'm like, I'll watch like several videos or whatever on YouTube because I'm a big history buff and I try to educate myself on stuff like that for whatever reason. But like, I feel like there's such an addiction to the phone that even if it's not pornography, it's other stuff.
Yes.
You know, maybe it's not bad stuff, but like you get addicted to like scrolling through reels for hours at a time or whatever. It's like,
it falls back to your numbing. And something.
Like I would catch myself doing it, and so finally I just got to where like I need to break this habit. And so now the reason my phone gets left sometimes is I'll go plug it in the bedroom, and we get our our stuff for like if we need overtime or people to come in for like a fire or whatever for work is through phone now. They don't use pagers anymore. But so I'll like click it on at full volume because I keep it vibrate at work. But it just stays plugged in my room. I don't carry it with me through the house. Or the only time I grab it's if I'm leaving to go somewhere or something like that. But like
and
at
I think
home,
that's
I'm not on it.
that's another big thing that I think people need to hear because you're intentional with your time around your family.
Yep.
Because it's so easy to get consumed, like you said.
Well, almost
this thing
lost
here is a major problem with addiction.
Yeah.
You know, the cell phone, and to put it away. You know, out where I live, then I don't. My phone doesn't ring in the house. I got to keep it in my office. But not always do I. But it's like if I'm going to be intentional with my family, I'm going to leave this out here so I can go hang out with my family.
Yep.
Because those things, it's a time suck, man, and it's a brainwasher, man. It just makes me stupid sometimes. Because like you said, you can just start scrolling through reels, and be like, where'd that hour go?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff on there that's funny.
Yeah.
You know, and my wife and I send stuff back and forth on occasion or whatever if we're in like if I'm at work and we got nothing else going on, I got all my work done or whatever, I might take a couple minutes and just flip through it. Because there's other stuff I do on it too for like my first form stuff and all that, but you know, like I'm just not that into having it on my person anymore. I finally got to where not necessarily cut the cord because I still use it for stuff, but it's not like this constant need to be on it.
But and you know too, I completely lost my train of thought there. I don't know, but I turned mine into a dumb phone. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I turned it into where I only have like 5 gigabytes of data on there, which is like 5 hours worth, but. You know, if you watch any TV on it, you can deplete that pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
Or watch any YouTube videos. But yeah, once I did that, because it's so easy to get addicted to it, that it's like, and I think all of us are probably addicted to it.
It is. I'm not trying to say that I'm not addicted to it, but it's much easier for me to set it down and walk away from it now than it ever used to be.
I remember what I was going to say too. I don't think it's necessarily a terrible thing, and you're like me with this. We have structure in our lives.
Yeah.
So I could get all my stuff done throughout the day and say, hey, for the next half hour, I'm going to spend on social media.
Yep.
And I'm okay with that. Like, that's cool. I can do that. But I have to have structure in my life. I assume that with your job, your structure's different. But do you have any sort of a morning routine and stuff like that when you're not working?
I actually try to keep the same routine at work that I do at home.
Do you?
Sometimes it's a little harder because at home I know I'm going to sleep until a certain time.
Yeah.
At work, I don't know that that's going to happen.
That's true.
And there's been numerous mornings where I like to get up about 5:45ish, maybe a little before. If I'm going into work, I'll get up earlier because I go to the gym most days before. But yeah, I get up early in the morning. I'm usually shower in the morning guy. I have recently tried to start doing a minute cold and then turn the hot on. And
there you go.
I was miserable.
I see you shaking your head over there.
I'm like, because we're at the start, March 1st, we're starting to live hard for the full year of it. And I'm like, I got to get myself primed for this because if I don't start now, I'm not going to be able to do 5 minutes when we get to it. But
5 minutes is a long time.
That is a very long time, especially when a minute felt like it was way too long.
And you live in the country, so you got that winter water coming out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm tracking that. I got it too. I'm like, whew.
I told Steph, I'm like, you know what I could do is just, because normally what I do is I go in and I'll flip it on and let it warm up because it takes a little bit to get from the water heater through the piping. I'm like, well, I'll start doing is just flipping it on and just getting in and just be miserable until it warms up.
I'll tell you what.
But
so 3 years on this journey of the cold showers, every single morning, there's so much resistance behind it. But we're talking about forgetting our phones every morning. So I take my phone in the shower with me because I use it as my 2-minute timer.
Yeah.
But dude, every single morning, that's the resistance I have. But once it's over with, I feel like I can accomplish anything. So I'm like, dude, I just did the hardest thing I'm going to do today. And I've already got it done this morning. I got it done like 5:15 this morning. I'm like, dude, day's gravy now, babe.
Yeah, I've always been like, not now, I guess, but when our pool would open, I'd always try to be the first one in, and that was miserably cold. And so it's never the cold. It's not really the getting in it. It's the staying in it that's usually the problem for me. So.
Good luck.
But I do, like you said, I feel more awake after I've had that than if I get in and staying in the warm shower, and then it's just, okay, well, if I get out of the hot water, I'm going to feel cold, and it's...
Yep.
easier for me to stay in there and just relax. And I know that I need to get moving for the day.
Yeah, that's funny. So you're starting to live hard life. What is it called?
Live hard. Well, they say it's a program, but it's a live hard year.
Live hard year. Okay.
It's 1 year of 75 hard, and then there's 3 phases that follow it.
Okay, so you completed 75 hard last year, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And is that where you really saw your transformation?
Yes. So my weight kind of fluctuated. Like I got down to 260, 265 for a while. And then the beginning of August, we started 75 hard. Because I've always kind of been interested in it. I tried to do it, I think, twice before and wasn't able to do it. And when I was talking about doing it, Steph said, well, if you'll do it, I'll do it with you because that should make it easier for you.
That's cool.
I'm like, well, I don't want to make it easier necessarily, but it would definitely be good to have some accountability. So, so then we did it together, and she had also struggled with weight issues since our kids were born. Mm-hmm. She was skinny before, but and that's not to say I think my wife was fat, but by her standards, she was fat.
Yep.
I had never thought that about her, but
kids will change a woman.
Yeah.
You know, I get it. Salt to my wife, you know.
So, but and I think that she had started some other stuff to try to help get some of that baby weight off, and when I had mentioned doing that, she's like, "Well, I'll do it with you." And so I'm glad that we went through it together because it definitely helped, not just losing weight and all that, but I think it helped us, as a couple.
Just the discipline behind 75. So when did you guys do it?
August. We did August until October 21st was our last day.
Okay. So, I don't remember when I started, but I finished July 2nd. Yeah. April, May, June, July, whatever that was. But you talk about, discipline, accountability. That was the biggest thing for me, was being accountable to someone. I did it. My wife and I started it together. She lasted, I'm not going to throw under the bus here, but she lasted about 4 days. And then I kept doing it, and it was extremely hard. My body did not feel good most days. Yep. There's a lot of days where I just went on 2 walks.
I had a couple of those days. There were days where I felt like I did too much, and then the next day I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna tone it or take it back a little bit. But there were also days where I felt like, man, I probably should have done a little more.
Yeah. So you completed that. How did you? And even now on this journey, how are you staying motivated?
I'm not always motivated. That's the big thing. I always try to share that because people think, I think we've kind of talked about it, or you've seen it some maybe, but like I post a lot of motivational stuff and I talk about like motivational stuff to people, but I'm not always motivated. But I also know that if I don't do the work, I'm going to feel worse than if I do. So I would rather go in unmotivated, do it, than be unmotivated, sitting at home going, man, I feel like a lazy piece of crap.
Because the time's going to go by regardless. My wife and I had this conversation. She had done a Beachbody program. This was probably 4 years ago. And she said, I would like to get in better shape. I'm going to go out in my office. We didn't have an office at the time. She had the garage. So it was cold, middle of winter. She's doing this in the garage. And she was up early, like 5 in the morning doing it like at 10 o'clock at night. And she's like, here's the deal. I want to get in better shape. Time's going to go by anyway. Whether I start now or I start in 4 years from now, time's going to go by. So I might as well just do it now because, it's only 30 minutes. That's what most people think. It's like this huge time commitment and a huge commitment to everything. But it's, we were talking about this the other day. Life, it's easy. I'm sorry.
It's simple,
but not easy.
Yeah.
Yes, everything we do in life, especially if you're stacking the wins and doing all the little things, then all the other things take care of themselves.
Yep.
That's hard. It's hard to understand because it's like I look at my own life right now. I'm like, am I doing this right? Life seems to be going a little bit too easy right now. And don't get me wrong, I have test days, a lot of test days. But sometimes I'm like, dude, am I doing this right? Like life seems to be going too good right now. But we're also very intentional about the things we're doing.
There's days at work. It's funny you mention that because there are guys at work that are like, well. And this is coming from them, not from me. There's guys at work that say, well, we would just be better. We would just do better if our Chiefs didn't try to micromanage all the time.
Yeah.
I got to say this in case this gets out. They do sometimes try to micromanage.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the time it is guys not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or stuff is not getting done like it's supposed to. And so every morning when I come in, first thing I do, I say hi, get my coffee, whatever. We've got a little desk for the officers. I sit down at it. I pull the calendar up, write down what's on the calendar. Pull up the Google Pass-on thing we got, write down what's on that. And then I'll take another sheet of paper and kind of filter it out into, okay, at 9 o'clock we need to do this. At whatever, set the schedule for the day. Then we do a pass-on for anything that's not written down or whatever. Hey, we caught this morning. I didn't get a chance to write it down. That goes on there too. And then we have what they call a shift briefing. So I'll sit down at the table, and we have our captain's there, but he lets me run it, and I'll go, okay, this is what we got on the schedule for today. We're gonna at 9 o'clock we got this. At 1 o'clock we got this. Da, 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 da. Cap, you got anything? Yes or no, whatever it is. All right, that's what we're going to take care of today. And then as long as those things get done, I don't screw with guys.
That's awesome. And that's structure.
Right. But then on the flip side of that, I think maybe for a new lieutenant, maybe twice, and one time because he was having a bad day, but maybe twice in the last year the Chiefs come out, what are you guys doing today? What's on your agenda? You guys seem like you're sitting around a little bit.
Really?
And it happens.
Yeah.
There's just times where we don't have anything to do. We get all the work done and there's nothing left to do. And so we have time they have it written down in our SOP is self-study or whatever, which I've got stuff that I'm working on to get certifications, but maybe other guys aren't. And they're back there, hey, and I tell guys like, hey, I don't care what you do back there, just don't get me in trouble.
Yeah.
Because if they tell me, then I got to come up with stuff, and I don't like coming up with stuff. That's not my. I just want to get done what we're supposed to get done and be done.
I don't want to come up with stuff. I like that. But that's also a leadership role on you because you're helping your guys. You're standing up for your guys. So I think that says a lot too.
I hope they see it that way.
For sure. So you're a big reader. What kind of books you into? Actually, let me rephrase that because I already know what books. If anybody's listening to this, they already know what kind of books you're into. But if you have top 2-3 book recommendations, what are they?
Top 2 or 3? So number 1, for sure, and I think I said this last time too. Anytime your kid brings you a book, you need to read that book to your kid, because I think that is something that we lose as parents trying to get everything else done, and we don't take time out for the little things like that. And it's not always about the 700th time that you're reading Green Eggs and Ham. It's about, your kid wants you to do that with you. And
that's intentional time with your children.
And we're starting to find that a little bit with our oldest, Chase, I take that back. Our oldest, Lexi, is graduating high school this month, or in May. Mm-hmm. And it's like, man, where did all the time go? I remember when Steph and I first got married, she's just 6 or 7 years old. So it's like you don't realize how fast the time goes until it's already gone. So I always tell guys, absolutely anytime your kid brings you a book, that's number 1.
That's good. I like that.
Whatever you're doing, stop and read to them, because it's not whatever you're doing, I promise you. Unless you're like in the middle of something, if you let go of it, it's going to explode and that's the end of it. You're probably not doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, that's number 1. Number 2, I put these together because I feel like it used to be just the one book, and now the second one's come out, and I feel like that you absolutely have to read them together, and that's Relentless and Winning. Those are probably 2 of my favorite books I've ever read. I think you and I had a conversation about Relentless. It's a little repetitive in places, but I just recently reread through it for a book club that I'm a part of, and it was like, I understand, yes, it's repetitive, and that kind of annoys me a little bit, but there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Because
isn't it saying repetition is a master of all
exactly.
learning?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's repetitive because in order to be better at something, you have to do the same mundane things over and over and over and over until you master them.
Agreed.
And I used to
and
have
that's
this.
Tim Grover, right?
That is 100. Yeah, okay. It is Tim Grover, and that is 100% why that book is written that way. And I never had thought about that until somebody said it, and I'm like, wow, that's like super eye-opening that it's written that way.
Yeah.
And then, so the third one, since this is for Structure U, and I feel like guys need to hear this. This one I brought today, Sovereignty.
Yes.
I'm in the middle of reading it, and I think every guy on the planet should read that book. It's so powerful.
And if anybody's not following Ryan Mickler, you should be following
100%.
Ryan. That dude is solid, and he speaks the truth. He's not scared of any repercussions. Like, that dude is solid.
Exactly.
All the way around. Yeah, Sovereignty, great book.
Yep.
If you were to have any piece of advice on your way out of here, what's one quote, piece of advice, anybody listening that you would give anybody?
I don't know.
I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot because I don't know.
And the deal is you probably got so many, you don't know what to say.
Yeah, that's probably the bigger part.
Being a reader, I know that feeling. So
I don't know. I mean, for everybody, I guess it's the easiest thing for me to say is do better. You can always do better.
Those two simple words, I think, make a huge difference, man. Do better.
And I think the thing people forget, too, is, like, that's not – some people be out there and take that as a shot or as a negative thing, but it's really not. Like, you can always – I feel like you can always do better no matter what.
Yep.
So
in any area, because we're all going through different seasons of life. We're all going through different things. And no matter what it is in your life or my life, just do better at something.
Exactly.
You know, have you read Atomic Habits?
Yes, I have.
James
I
Clear.
read that during 75 Hard.
You know, getting 1% better every day.
Exactly.
Just do better every day, a little bit better every day. And then I've used this term a lot, you know. When we set goals, we overestimate what we can accomplish in a year, but I really screwed that up. We overestimate what we can accomplish in a month when we set, monthly goals, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in a year. You know, you look back in a year from now, last February this time, like, dude, I've grown a lot. Didn't know it was possible, but I've grown a lot. So I think do better is perfect.
That's something too that I like is I think it's in Winning. He says that once you get to the top 1%, what separates the top 1% isn't a big gap. It's not like there's a huge gap between guys. It's 0.1% each person.
Yes.
It's like, man, that's powerful stuff because you look at the difference between somebody like, say, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, to use his example. I think it's like, how do you differentiate that as the average person looking unless you have the ability to look at, okay, well, here's where he's just a smidge better than the other guys. So,
and, I think that's, if we're talking about our personal lives, let's be honest. You're doing everything it takes in the CrossFit realm to whip up on me. It's a matter of time, dude, before you come in, because I'm not doing all the things you're doing, and you're getting 1% better than me every day. And I'm like, I'm going through a season where I'm not there yet, but you're crushing it, man. So good for you.
Also, another piece of advice that I would give, if you ever think, man, I would like to row a half marathon, you do not want to do that. Don't do that. It's
Bad
a terrible
choice.
idea. It's very hard on your body.
Oh, that's funny. Well, Jordan, I appreciate you stopping by and hanging out with us for a little bit. I'm sure that with everything you shared, people are going to get some good stuff out of this. So.
Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Awesome. Good deal. Thank you, brother.
Yep.